Good morning, colleagues. I see there are still people joining the platform, so I'm just going to give about a minute before we kick off to make sure everyone's online. There we go. Before we begin, I would just like to ask Babalwa if we've got quorum to start.
Good morning, Chair. Yes, we do have a quorum. We can start a meeting.
Thank you, Babalwa. Colleagues, I would like to start to ask any of the honourable members whether we can move to adopt the agenda. Honourable Schikkerling.
Good morning, Chairperson, and to all the members. I hope everybody's fine. Chair, I move for the adoption of the agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Schikkerling. May I have a second to that?
I'll second, sir. Mr. Chairman, good morning.
Good morning, Reverend. Thank you very much. The agenda is then adopted as is. Babalwa, are there any apologies for today?
No, Chairperson, I did not receive the apologies. The one I received was for Rev Mesho, but then I checked that he...
Mr. Chairman.
Reverend, please go ahead.
I'm going to ask you to be excused at 9 to attend international relations, sir.
That's fine. Thank you, Honourable Reverend. That's no problem. So that's it. I note that there are some members that are still not on the platform, whom we haven't received apologies for. So we'll just take note. If people join, we can welcome them to the meeting. But as Babalwa indicated, we do have quorum this morning. Colleagues, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on opening remarks. I think, in short, we really want this meeting. Firstly, in my opinion, we've got significant frustration that we aren't able to start with police committee work due to the constant extension of the ad hoc committee. So we want to run through the program with everyone, make sure we're all streamlined. I think all of us share that frustration. I will give an opportunity later on for any questions or discussions from the members regarding the programming. I really hope, and it does seem that it was the last extension now until about the middle of March, from where we'll be able to kick off with so much of our work that we've actually fallen behind with. So the aim of today is really to do some housekeeping, and we would like to really then just have everyone on the same page. Before I do that, I would just also like to welcome Mfundulo, who is the new assistant in the place of Mr. Lobby for the committee. I am struggling to see his name on the platform, but if he is with us, if you could just switch on your camera and maybe just briefly introduce yourself so that we have a face to put to the name. Babalwa, is he on the platform?
Yes, Chair.
Good morning, Chair and honorable members. Can you hear me?
There we go. We can hear you. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. My name is Mpendulo. Surname is Nyoashu. And as you said, Chairperson, I'll be a new committee assistant in this portfolio committee of police. And I'm really looking forward to work with you members and the staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to working with you as well. And welcome to the team. As I said earlier, everyone's not here, but I'm sure you've already met quite a few of the members with the ongoing ad hoc committee as well, because a lot of the police members sit on there. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy working with our committee.
Thank you.
Colleagues, I would then like to just briefly say that we're going to go through a presentation with Nicolette regarding the appointment of a permanent executive director of IPID, just feedback on that. Due to its administrative nature and frustration as well, I think it's important just to get feedback on that, because it is something that is extremely urgent at the moment and that is kind of fallen on the wayside. Then we will listen to Nicolette regarding the impact of the ad hoc committee on the work of the portfolio committee. We will touch on administrative matters regarding the gang-related or the gang violence inquiry, and then also run through the first and second term program for the committee, after which we will have a brief discussion. Our time frame is aimed at being finished by 11. We don't want to go over that. If we can finish earlier, I know there are some of the members that are still commuting today as well, so I want to give ample time for that before the plenary this afternoon. And with that, I would then like to hand over to Nicolette for the relevant presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable Members. I am just quickly going to run through the presentation on the items mentioned by the Chairperson. So this my presentation will focus on the appointment of a permanent executive director of IPID, the impact of the ad hoc committee to investigate the allegations made by Lieutenant General Makunalsi on the work of the portfolio committee on police, the inquiry into gang-related violence in the Cape Flats and surrounding areas, and the first and second term programs of the committee. Honourable members, I just want to pause a bit on the background of the appointment of the IPID executive director. We have had many historical delays in the appointment of the executive director, and it's been a recurring problem or challenge in the portfolio. When the Independent Complaints Directorate, or the ICD, became the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, or IPID, under the IPID Act of 2011, apologies. The transition from the ICD to IPID was overseen by Advocate Beekman, who subsequently left the institution in 2012. An acting appointment was then held by Ms. Mbeki from 2012 until 2014. In 2014, Mr. McBride was appointed for a 5-year period ending on the 28th of February 2019. However, in 2015, Mr. McBride was suspended. Based on this, he approached the courts, and in September 2016, the Constitutional Court declared that the removal process of the executive director was unconstitutional and gave Parliament 2 years to remedy the defect. Following this, Mr. McBride resumed office as the executive director in 2016. The contract of employment of Mr. McBride came to an end in February 2019. In March 2019, the Minister
Chair, Nicolette is muted.
Yes.
We can't hear.
Yes, Honorable Ghana, I think we've just lost her for a moment. Let's just give a second. Nicolette, you've gone very quiet suddenly.
Sorry, Chair. Sorry,
There we go.
members.
Got you back. Perfect.
So let me take it from the start here. So what I indicated is that the contract of Mr. McBride came to an end in February 2019. In March 2019, the minister appointed an acting executive director. This position remained not filled. And in April 2020, the Portfolio Committee on Police and the Speaker of the National Assembly formally intervened and requested the Minister of Police to nominate a permanent executive director, and noting that the position had remained vacant for over a year. In June 2020, the Minister nominated a candidate, and it was referred to the Portfolio Committee on Police for approval. In July 2020, the committee agreed to the appointment of Ms.
Gone quiet again, Nicolette.
Sorry, Chair, I'm not muting myself. So Ms. Nitlat Singh was appointed in July 2020 as Executive Director of IPID. And in terms of the IPID Act, the employment contract was concluded for a 5-year period with the possibility of a 2-year extension.
Sorry, Nicolette. You weren't quite on me. I didn't get the name. Who was appointed? Honorable Shongo, sorry for that.
Sorry, it was Ms. Nitlat Singh and Jennifer Nitlat Singh. So, honorable members, her contract ended or expired on the 31st of July last year, and following her contract expiring, Dr. Bila was appointed to serve as the acting executive director. Now, the 2024 amendments to the IPID Act reinforced the safeguards for the appointment and removal process of the executive director, and is aimed at strengthening the institutional independence and limiting undue political influence over these processes. In terms of the Act, the Minister of Police must constitute a panel to assist in the identification of a suitably qualified candidate for appointment. The Act further provides that the executive director is appointed for a single non-renewable term of 7 years. Now, this is a change from the 5-year contract with the possible extension of 2 years. Then, upon a vacancy occurring, a permanent appointment must be made within 6 months. Now, if a permanent appointment cannot be made within this period, the minister must provide the relevant committee, which is the Portfolio Committee on Police, and the Minister of Public Service and Administration, reasons for the delay and request an extension of the period, which must not exceed a further 6-month period. And honorable members, this is just to illustrate that over the course of IPID's existence, there has been various or long periods in which the position of the executive director was acting. Members, on the 13th of February this year, The committee received a letter from the Acting Minister of Police requesting concurrence from the committee to extend the recruitment process for a further 6 months, and thus permitting Dr. Bila to remain in the position until a permanent appointment is made. The 6-month statutory period within which the vacancy was required to be filled expired in January this year. So the further extension period expires in June 2026, in which the recruitment and appointment process must be made. The recruitment process has commenced, but it is delayed to ongoing legal challenges. The former executive director instituted an unfair labor practice dispute related to the extension and non-extension of her employment contract. Coupled to this, a process has been undertaken to review the organizational structure of IPID, including a proposal for upgrading the post of executive director to the level of director general. If the committee concurs with the extension, a letter is to be submitted to the acting minister indicating the concurrence. It is recommended that a concise report also be tabled in the National Assembly for noting. Although the Act does not prescribe it, it is good practice just to inform the NA of this, because the requirement is that the Portfolio Committee officially approves the appointment of the executive director, which must be accepted by the NA with a majority. In terms of this, honorable members, the historic challenges with the timely appointment of the executive directors remain a serious concern. From an oversight perspective, this is less a routine administrative extension and more a governance and accountability risk issue. The request from the minister arises at a time when the policing environment is under heightened scrutiny and when independent oversight mechanisms are particularly crucial. The leadership instability and delays in appointments must be evaluated against a broader need for certainty, credibility, and demonstrable independence in police accountability structures. In saying this, the IPID continues to perform its mandate diligently, despite significant resource constraints, both in terms of funding and personnel capacity. Moving on to the impact of the Ad Hoc Committee on the work of the Portfolio Committee on police. As members are aware, there has been three extensions to extend the lifespan of the Ad Hoc Committee, and the original expiry was at the end of October last year. The second expiry was on the 20th of February this year, and the third expiry will be on the 27th of March this year. The challenge with the Ad Hoc Committee is that 7 of our members is currently serving on the Ad Hoc Committee, reflecting a significant lapse or overlap in membership. next week, Friday, on the 6th of March. The Portfolio Committee will be invited to join the meeting, but the focus remains on defense. But it will be really good if members of our committee not attached to the ad hoc can attend this meeting. The deployment of the SANDF will commence on the 1st of March this year and will run for a 3-year period. And naturally, the ad hoc committee has delayed the inquiry quite a bit, as we were supposed to adopt the terms of reference this month and go into public, but a call for public participation, and then take the inquiry further. It is recommended and must be discussed with by the committee that the committee requests an extension from the Speaker until September 2026. And Chairperson, I see Honourable Mesha's hand is up.
Honourable Meshwe, please go ahead.
Chairperson, my question is about the deployment of the SANDF. Did we hear that it is going to be for 3 years? Because here it's written 3 months period. Which is the correct one? 3 months or 3 years?
Thank you, Honourable Meshwe. Nicolette?
Honourable Meshwe, and members, as I understand, it will be only for 3 months until the end of May this year. However, if there is confusion, I will just double check and inform the committee if there has been a mistake.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Reverend. Nicolette, please go ahead.
Just to also note, members, the Portfolio Committee on Defence is having a meeting today with various stakeholders and academia on the deployment and this possible impact that such a deployment could have on the stabilization of the gang-related violence. I will send a link to the recording of this meeting for members to maybe have a look at it and gain some perspective on what the possible concerns are with the deployment. So with that, I am going to move to the first term program. The first term program or period started on the 27th of January.
Sorry, Nicolette, just hold on a second. Honourable Ghana.
Thanks very much, Chair. I would maybe request that maybe so 2 things, that we deal with what has been tabled and we deal with the program as a separate discussion. And then if the Nicolette can also fly the document, assist us in following what is being shared as a proposal, because there are a lot of proposals. I don't know whether the IPID submission requires a decision, the input regarding the ad hoc committee, and the inquiry, unless if that gets resolved by the program. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Ghana. Honourable Carla Barnard.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I wonder if we might ask Nicolette to provide us with the terms of reference of the deployment of the Defence Force into Mitchell's Plain. I have for many years believed it hugely problematic to deploy the Defence Force, which is supposed to be working outside of our borders. To deploy them inside, they have no powers of arrest. They're certainly not there to attack or kill people, which is what they are trained to do outside of our borders. So I'd like to know what exactly the terms of reference are in terms of their deployment. I did see how effective they were during the riots in KwaZulu-Natal 2 years ago, just walking literally through neighborhoods, and the incessant firearms and just the noise and the racket from multiple shootings every minute just stopped as they walked through. So they have an impact visually, an impact on the psyche of the local populace. But I'd like to know what the exact terms of reference are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Kalabona. Honourable Schikkerling.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I want to agree with Honourable Ghana. I think if we can perhaps just deal with IPID and get that done, and then deal with the next one, which is the gang violence, and have a discussion about that, because I think it would be proactive of us also to set up dates before we start in May, where we can perhaps just discuss the terms of reference, so that when we do kick off in May, that we kick off with the oversight, and we don't still have to go and discuss the terms of reference, because that does take some time, and then proceed to the program, just so that we have some indication of dates when we do go to the program of the gang violence, so that we can just sort out those terms of reference beforehand. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Schikkerling. Honourable James.
Thank you so much, Chair. Apologies for joining late. I have network issues this morning, so apologies for keeping my camera off. So I joined late, so I'm not sure if this discussion was already held on the deployment of SANDF. I'm hearing the Secretariat saying that we will be invited, that the terms of reference has already been drafted. I'm asking myself here, are we going to again allow SANDF to go into these communities without the whole of government approach? As we know that SANDF is going in as a force multiplier to sort of add value to SAPS, and it's supposed to be a coordinated approach. So if we're not part and parcel of all these meetings and understand how this is going to work, this is going to be another futile exercise. We can never, ever have SANDF going into these communities as a stabilizer, yes, which is needed to address issues such as drugs and gangs and whatever. When the drugs run dry, where is social development to assist with treatment in terms of inpatient and outpatient? What is going to happen to all those drug addicted patients in that area? Who are the supporting departments that's going to go in there? Where is NPA for specialized courts? Because they're not going in just to walk around. Obviously, arrest will be affected as well by SAPS. Are we going to have 3 months of only SANDF and back to square one? Why aren't we not implementing and using the National Drug Master Plan, which speaks to key role players in terms of addressing gang and drug-related violence in that area? It can never, ever be that we as the Portfolio Committee of Police sit back and we just allow and we say, you know what, we'll be invited to as just as bystanders, and we're not allowed to give input from the get-go. I think this Portfolio Committee needs to push for our involvement so that we can also add value and actually ensure that we get value for money here, so that we are also able to go back to the residents and say to them that, you know what, we're going to look at all aspects, the drivers and everything. SANDF is only meant to go in there as a force multiplier and to stabilize, but we are stabilizing and doing nothing else. It doesn't make sense to me. So I'm not sure if we're going to go into this. Have I really given my input now, Chair, or should we wait, or how this is actually going to work? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable James. Honourable Muela. Honourable Muela. Honourable Muela, I'll come back to you. Nicolette.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I just want to clarify that the terms of reference that is being referred to is the Portfolio Committee on Police. That is our terms of reference to the inquiry into gang-related violence. Because of the deployment of the SANDF, there's just a suggestion that they, to a lesser degree, form part of the inquiry. And there's also a suggestion made on the second term that we have a joint oversight visit to the affected areas and see how the deployment of the SANDF is going and how communities are experiencing it. So there's no terms of reference for the SANDF and their deployment. That is why on the 6th of February, 6th of March, the SANDF will brief the Portfolio Committee or the Joint Standing Committee on Defense about the readiness plan and how it will be implemented, how the deployment will be implemented. That is the reason why the Portfolio Committee will be invited to participate. But the focus of that engagement is on the deployment readiness plan of the SANDF. Thus, honorable members, the terms of reference that's being referred to is only that for the Portfolio Committee on Police Inquiry. That will, I can flight the terms of reference that has been drafted. Naturally, the dates of the inquiry will change, but it provides a holistic approach with all relevant departments, which will be under consideration for the committee. And it will be welcome if the committee can interrogate the terms of reference, and then we can make the adjustments suggested by the committee, and then we can move forward. But the dates or the proposed dates are included in the second term program, and that will run into the third term program. And that is dependent on the committee deciding or agreeing that the application or the notice be made to the Speaker of the NA to grant an extension to the end of September, which is then also the end of the third term. Thank you, members. I hope this clarifies the SANDF and our terms of reference.
Thank you, Nicolette. I'll comment now. I just want to give an opportunity to Honourable James. I see your hands up again.
Sorry, Chair, not to get into a dialogue here, back and forth. Thank you so much, Nicolette, for the clarity on the inquiry. I thought it was about the SANDF. So you've settled me there also in terms of, we'll try and have a joint approach with all other relevant stakeholders. I'm going to say this again. We cannot be briefed about what the deployment of SANDF will look like. I'm just trying to find the section in the Constitution pertaining to the deployment of SANDF in a community to address drugs that speaks of the coordinated approach and sort of the dual responsibility from SANDF as well as SAPS. So we cannot be briefed on the first or afterwards when a decision has already been taken. We are meant to also give input in terms of how this deployment is going to look like and what the role of SAPS needs to be. And this isn't because we're just saying, so this is as per the Constitution. I'm going to find it and I'm actually going to share it on the group with the rest of the members. So we cannot be left out of this operation. We form a key, we part and parcel of this operation that is going to unfold. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable James. Honorable Muela, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you, Chair. Let me greet the members in the platform and also want to make an input on what the presentation from Nicolette. I think the first thing that I need to speak of is the issue of IPID, to say yes, indeed, it's long overdue. We need to find a way forward into dealing with this particular appointment once and for all, so that we are able to have an accountability in that particular field. But we also need to understand that, as Honorable Ghana has said, if we are to make a determination, or we have to have an accountability from the executive in terms of what might be the delay and why does it take so long, so that we are able to have a movement in that particular field, because there's a lot of issues that are happening. And then, but what I want to raise, Chair, is that there are so many issues that are piling. That is why we don't have a direction at this moment, because there are many things. We're putting a lot of issues at once. And this is the consequence of the committee not dealing with policing matters that are happening on day-to-day processes. Remember, during SONA, the president has made a lot of announcements which affect policing, which were supposed to be effected or processed by the committee. But because of the concerns that we all know, which are also as part of the discussion towards the end of the agenda item, that the work of the committee has now been compromised by the work that is running without it meeting. If we're having the meetings, I think the issue of the SANDF that is raised by Honorable James, we could have agreed as a committee to say this is a good initiative by the president. The issue of gangs related and organized crime in the Western Cape is long overdue. We need to be decisive about it, but to also seek a legal advice as a committee to say, how are we going to, what is the constitution saying with regard to this particular matter? How are we going to effect it, and so forth, so that we are able to follow suit as a portfolio committee, so that if there is anything that happens, as a committee, we are able to understand what is the plan of the police with regard to this matter. How are they going to match this net joint operation that is planned for these particular areas that have been announced, which will be Western Cape, Eastern Cape, and some part of Gauteng, so that we deal with this particular matter. Because the people of South Africa have been saying to us that the gang violence is happening. There's always new boots on the ground, but the matter becomes worse. There is nothing that is happening. So I think we are welcoming that particular intervention by the president, but we have to align it exactly so that as a committee we are able to be abreast of what is the plan step by step until the effect of that particular matter, so that they are able to account and we have an understanding of what is it that is going to be happening. I think that is one important issue that we must process as a committee, so that we are able to correlate these particular matters. And also the matter of the resolution that have been taken by Parliament, so to establish the committee to deal with the matters in the Western Cape. Also, the matter has been taken for long, but because we are being we have not been processing matters for long. These particular matters, there are many that we need to process. So I think this meeting must also give a direction as to what is going to be happening from now going forward. For the fact that the Ad Hoc Committee is sitting does not mean that the committee must not move. Because policing matters in South Africa are happening every day, and the police must account to the committee. So I think we need to wait before today so that we have an understanding on how we're going to move. We must find a way where these programs, the committee and the Ad Hoc Committee, they coexist and they run concurrently so that we don't hold back the work of the committee, so that way there is accountability in that particular matter. That is what I wanted to submit, chair and members. I'll come back again towards the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Muela. Nicolette van Zyl, and then I'll comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Just to provide clarity on the deployment of the SANDF, under section 201, sub 2, sub A, only the President, as Commander-in-Chief of the SANDF, may authorize the deployment of the Defence Force in cooperation with the police service. Now, it's important to note that it is in cooperation. So I take the point that, we must prioritize a meeting with SAPS and then a coordinated meeting with the SANDF. In terms of section 205.3, it confirms that SAPS is primarily responsible for the prevention, combating, and investigation of crime, and to maintain public order. And then section 198 of the, section 18, sub 1 of the Defence Act, again stipulates that the President may authorize the deployment of the SANDF. The deployment of armed forces, it is considered and approved by the Joint Standing Committee on Defence. So they approve the deployment. So I just want to give clarity on that. So naturally, members, as a lot of commentators have indicated, that the SANDF, their mandate and that of the SAPS is fundamentally different. So keeping that in mind, but that is, I just want to give clarity on the deployment issues. Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nicolette. I would like us to maybe before we continue with the rest of the agenda, just ask Nicolette: is there can we tick IPID off? Is there something that you need from the committee today regarding IPID? And then let's maybe deal with that because I don't think it's an extremely lengthy discussion. And then we can move on, because I believe that regarding the program as well as the inquiry, the gang inquiry, there would be some discussion and input. So before I further comment, is there anything, what do you need from the committee today?
Chair, we do as committee need to come to an agreement or disagreement on the extension of the appointment process of the executive director for a further 6-month period. This is allowed in the IPID Act, as amended by the 2024 Amendment Act. So, members, the letter from I will share the letter of the acting minister, but what I've presented today is the content of the letter. So it will be good if the committee can make a determination on whether to allow concurrence or not.
Thank you, Nicolette. I'm going to allow 5 minutes for each member to give their opinion on the extension and to give an indication of whether they support it or not, from where we will then make the decision as a committee whether we grant the extension or not. Can I please have a show of hands regarding this? I think it is pretty self-explanatory. Nicolette has shared the exact request, and we'll also send the rest if there's anything additional to that to all of the members. I see hands going up. May I please start with the Honourable, let me just check, Honourable Muela, is your hand still up from earlier or is it a new hand? I'm going to then move to the Honourable Ghana.
Yeah, thanks very much. I will have no difficulty in supporting the extension, but when we next meet with the Minister of Police, he must give an update, and commitment, a firm commitment in terms of where on two things, because Nicolette mentioned two things. There's the recruitment process on one hand, but also the the legal challenge that might very well come as it relates to the to that position. So I think the next engagement that we have with the minister, need to be able to offer that response, and maybe seeing that next week it's also a question day for the cluster. If one of the questions relates to IP, then can very well be asked to give an update on this recruitment process and the legal process. So that will be my submission, that we accept the extension, but we keep him on an ongoing basis to keep the committee informed of both those, the recruitment and the legal challenge. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Honourable Ghana. Then the Honourable Schikkerling.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I move for the approval of the concurrence in the appointment of or retaining the Dr. Bila as the Executive Director. I think we can definitely note that there's been progress made within IPID. There's definitely a reduction in the backlog of cases and an improved institutional stability. I really think that this concurrence supports continued stability and strengthens our oversight and accountability within our policing environment, which is sorely needed at this stage. And I don't think making any changes at this stage would be a good choice for this committee. I think we should proceed with the concurrence. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Schikkerling. Guys, just for the sake of clarity, I think it's important to say that we approve that approval and concurrence aren't necessarily the same thing. But for the sake of this, I understand the Honourable Schikkerling saying that she approves. Honourable Kola Barnard.
Yeah, thank you. Certainly, I think we're on the right track with the IPID, but I also would like to add and just respond to what Honourable Moela had to say, in that while it's a lovely thought that this committee could sit simultaneously or alongside the ad hoc committee. For example, we sat yesterday, I was there from 8:30, we finished at nearly midnight. This committee sits 4 days a week and very long hours until late at night. There is no time for the Police Portfolio Committee. We also have upwards of a 6-hour Zoom meeting on a Monday, which was wiping out our constituency days. So I know it's been very difficult for this committee. It's equally difficult for the Justice Committee. They are going crazy because they're falling so far behind. But we've had no option, absolutely no option, but to finish off the ad hoc committee and then leap back into our proper work. So I don't think that can even be considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Carla Barnard. Just as a reminder to everyone is that the ad hoc committee is only 2 weeks still. So, I obviously share the frustration and I completely agree with everything that has been said around the urgency of police matters. But it's 2 weeks. Then we can operate fully. I would like to move to the Honourable Reverend Meshwe.
Chairperson, we agree that the IPID is definitely on the right track. There's an improvement in performance, and we therefore support the extension.
Thank you, Honourable Reverend. I would like to go to the Honourable Shongwe.
Thank you, Chair. For a while, I got confused whether we're approving or extending, so I got really confused. But I think for now, Chair, we will move for the extension, and I will rest my case there.
Thank you, Honourable Shongwe. With that, Nicolette, I think it indicates approval. I just make a special note that with the approval, we should also send a letter to the Minister of Police that when he appears before the committee again, we would like to receive the relevant feedback regarding the process within IPID. And I think also to add to that, if the Honourable Garner would agree, that we would like to also see a very clear timeline on the process and what lies ahead and when they would resolve the final appointment. Honourable Skosana.
Good morning, Chair. I just wanted to remind you that we don't have a minister, we have an acting minister. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Skosana. At the moment, he's fulfilling the role of a complete minister, so whether acting or not, he needs to take responsibility for that role. Thank you, Honourable Skosana. Nicolette, are you
don't call him a minister. He's an acting.
Honourable Skosana,
because next time we're going to call him a professor.
Thank you, Honourable Skosana. Nicolette, are you comfortable with the feedback from the colleagues?
Thank you very much, Chair and members.
Honourable members, I then think the matter regarding IPID specifically is resolved for now. So we can tick that off. I would just like to ask everyone, I think there are a few legacy hands still up, to just lower your hands, please. Then I would like to move to the gang inquiry. I'm going to do the same thing, that if there are questions to Nicolette or anything of that kind regarding the inquiry, I would like to give you an opportunity to raise that. And then specifically also just as a request, and I think the committee would agree, if at all possible, I would like to ask Nicolette and Babalwa that we consider the suggestion that has been mentioned. I know that the Honourable Garner and Honourable Muela have both spoken to some of the committee members. I'm not sure everyone who spoke with whom, but nevertheless, they make a very good suggestion of having a briefing before the deployment. It does not need to be a day-long briefing, and we cannot interfere in the direct operational matters, but I believe that there are questions and points of clarity that need to be asked. We also cannot slow down the deployment. I think people are in desperate need of some kind of stabilization. But I tend to agree with the Honourable James that there are certain things that would be helpful for us. And I think it's very important from a police committee side that we make sure that the South African Police Service are, still considered and seen as the leaders in this process, and that the SANDF is simply a force multiplier for them, a support structure for them, and that by no means they can act in isolation from the South African Police Service. And I think our committee has an important oversight role to play specifically regarding that, and obviously taking into consideration the additions or points that the Honourable Kola Barnard also made. So I'm going to do the same thing again regarding the inquiry. Let us resolve any questions or matters of clarity. I'm saying inquiry, but also the SANDF deployment. If it's okay with you, I'm putting both under the same umbrella because they are linked. And let's have that discussion then. If it's okay, I'm going to switch the timer on again at 5 minutes each, after which we can allow Nicolette or anyone else for that matter to assist in answering the relevant questions. May I please see a show of hands if there are questions? Honourable Schikkeling. I'm going to start with you then, Honourable Schikkeling.
My hand is not legacy, Chair.
Sorry, Honourable Garner, apologies for that. I'm going to note your hand after Honourable Schikkeling, and then I've noted Honourable James. Apologies, Honourable Garner.
Thank you, Chairperson. I don't specifically have a question. I would just like a suggestion from that I made earlier on, is that we can meet as a committee before we start with the oversight so that we can properly go through the terms of reference, so that we can adopt them as a committee, so that it doesn't interfere with the beginning of the term of the next term when we do sit, because our time is limited and there are many policing issues, as Nicolette put up earlier on, that we have to deal with. And the gang violence is obviously a pressing matter for all South Africans, especially the people living in the Cape Flats. And I think we should just give it our best effort and make sure that once we start with the oversight, we don't have any breaks, that we proceed with the program, and that everybody knows that where we're going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Schikkeling. Honourable Garner.
Thanks very much, Chair. So agreeing in terms of asking for the extension. So that's the first thing. That let's ask now rather than do what the ad hoc has done. So we ask for the extension, and what you call the ad hoc might very well be the reason. So that's number one. Number two, I think when we meet next week, let's because Nicolette was saying that they want to redraft the draft that they will have circulated beginning of the year. Let that serve next week, and then coupled with that, so that we work with speed, because learning from what has happened with the ad hoc committee. So when we deal with the draft terms of reference, let's also use that meeting to identify the stakeholders that we want to interact with, so that we do things in parallel and not sequential. So let's start thinking about the stakeholders that needs to be part of the committee inquiry, and then so that when we are discussing the terms of reference, in the same way, we have the stakeholders, and we try to finalize the terms of reference this side of the first term, so that the desktop work that needs to be done can happen this side of the first term. And when we return for the second term, it's more the whether it's the public hearings and so forth that needs to be had. I submit, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Garner. I would then, before I go to the Honourable James, I just want to say the committee members are extremely, I don't want to speak too early maybe, but it's extremely impressive to see how time effective the comments are. So I think we should keep it up, Honourable James.
Was that for me, Chair? Thank you. Okay, so I support the extension. Just again on my concern with regards to what the Constitution actually says in terms of Section 201, where it speaks to the President to deploy the SANDF in cooperation with South African Police Service. So if we're not going to be sort of direct and decisive and know what our role is to play during this deployment, we're just going to miss another opportunity. And I'm saying this because SANDF is going to go in there. We are obviously going to close down the Spela Posa. We are obviously going to close down drug houses. We are obviously going to confiscate drugs. What happens with the delays at the forensic labs? Already we have delays there. Do we have a special team that's specifically going to focus on sort of testing all the drugs that's going to be confiscated during this operation? That's the one thing. The second thing is, do we have sort of designated detectives that's going to handle all of these cases so that we can speed it up? So those are just but two things that's almost mandatory. If we don't have this wing, and if we don't have sort of a partnership even with NPA in terms of placing and ensuring that all the cases registered under this deployment for the next 3 months and sort of that they need to be treated with a little bit of urgency at NPA, then this is going to be a futile exercise. So I'm not saying that we must delay the deployment of SANDF. I'm saying, yes, they must go in as the force multiplier for the first month and whatever, sort of to stabilize things. But at some point, we too must be ready to it's unfortunately, we have a role to play here in terms of the National Drug Master Plan on substance abuse and on gangsterism. Our responsibility here is supply reduction. And when we address supply reduction, there are certain steps that SAPS must take during these 3 months. That's what I'm saying, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable James. Any of the other colleagues would like to add anything regarding the specific topic? I'm going to allow Nicolette to actually, when she answers, to actually refer to the draft terms of reference. So she will obviously then indirectly go through, or directly go through some of it, and then use it as an opportunity to enlighten members, but also give an indication of possible additions or edits that would, or alterations that would take place due to the deployment of the SANDF, amongst other things. Nicolette?
Thank you, Chairperson and members. Chair, with your permission, I would like to just first go to the programs of the committee, just to give a highlight of what is happening. So, honorable members, what we have here is that the first period started on the 27th of January and ends on the 2nd of April. The NA constituency period starts on the 7th of April and ends on 20 April. Today's meeting is unfortunately the first one and possibly the only one for the first term. However, as members have indicated, this will be amended to allow more meetings of the Portfolio Committee on Police. So that will be just reviewed. The agenda items that could not be accommodated on the first term program to date is the gang-related violence inquiry, the statutory rape inquiry, a briefing by the SAPS on the post-audit action plan, the third quarter performance and expenditure, considerations of the annual report of CERA, the DNA board, and the DPCI judge, and consideration of petitions that is currently before the Portfolio Committee. Moving to the second term program, and this is the period starting from the 21st of April to the 26th of June. That's 9 weeks. As per the committee's resolution, during our strategic planning session earlier this year, where the committee resolved to have more than one meeting day, this led to consultations with the House Chairperson regarding the additional meeting days, and we have received confirmation that the committee is allowed to meet both on Wednesdays and Fridays, and this will be communicated to all stakeholders. Now, the second term will really start off with the budget and annual performance plan hearings. It must take priority. Our reports must be adopted prior to the mini plenaries on the budget votes, which is starting on the 8th of May. The focus will also be on the gang violence inquiry. This will be a focus, and this is just a suggestion, that we focus on departmental briefing, and that the third term will focus on the public hearings, site visits, and reporting on the inquiry. I just want to quickly indicate that why we are suggesting that we focus on the departmental briefings first is because we are planning or suggesting to extend on what, or not improve, but extend what the National Assembly actually resolved. The resolution was for the committee to only engage with security structures. However, it is proposed that we extend this and to have proper public hearings. So the committee will issue a call for public comment, which will be analyzed and tabled before the committee, and then the committee will engage in public hearings. This is just really as a commitment of the committee to address gang violence or gang-related violence in the Cape Flats and surrounding areas. So I think that's a positive step that could be considered by the committee to expand on the mandated inquiry that must be held by the committee. But if you allow, I'm going to just quickly run through the the draft terms of reference as it currently stands, just to show members the current direction that the committee is planning to take. And maybe as a preliminary discussion today, we can start to amend the terms of reference prior to it being discussed, so that we can, as an interim or now, amend the terms of reference. And then it will go to the committee for deliberation and then adoption. And if that is fine with members, I will continue.
Please go ahead, Nicolette.
So members, as it stands now, we know the purpose of the inquiry will be to conduct a focused parliamentary assessment of the causes, dynamics, and impact of gang-related violence in Cape Town, the effectiveness and adequacy of the state's response, including policing, crime intelligence, investigation and prosecution, and the legislative, policy, and intergovernmental framework governing the prevention and prosecution of gang-related violence, with a view to tabling findings and recommendations before the NI, and the state will be amended towards the end of September, barring the approval from the Speaker and the NI. I'm not going to read through the mandate, but it just expands on what the committee will do, detailed in how the inquiry will unfold. So this is an important one, to conduct public hearings to elicit community views on the driver's impact and possible solution to gang-related violence. We will also confer, the resolution states that we can confer with any portfolio committee in the National Assembly. It is proposed that we confer with the portfolio committee on social development and other relevant committees in the security cluster to formulate a multi-sectoral proposal, and with the intervention from the Honourable President to deploy the SANDF. The Defence Committee will also be brought in here specifically to amend and really prioritize this mandate and the joint deployment that was just discussed by members. There is a limitation that we must accept as a committee, that the inquiry is confined to gang-related violence in Cape Town. This will and does not constitute a general inquiry into the overall performance of national command structures in the South African Police Service. So the scope, just to run through, will be the crime dynamics and gang economies. So this will also, one of the aspects will be the role of illegal firearms, drugs, extortion, and organized crime networks. The second one will be policing capacity and operational responses. The third one will be crime intelligence and investigations. And then the fourth one will be prosecution and criminal justice outcomes, to see whether there is actually movement on prosecutions. And here we will bring in naturally the POCA and that substantial engagement with the NPA. Coupled with that is the intergovernmental coordination between the SAPS, the NPA, the DPCI, the IPID, the Department of Correctional Services, and the Department of Social Development, the Western Cape Government, the City of Cape Town, and other relevant institutions. It is suggested here, honourable members, that the SANDF or the Defence Committee can also play a role here, but that it should be limited because the deployment of the SANDF is for a very short period. But naturally, in terms of the public participation hearings, and we will also hear from communities on how they experienced the deployment. I just want to highlight here, honorable members, that it must be noted that in 2019, 2020, 21, we had a case where the SANDF was deployed during the COVID lockdown. And there was a very unfortunate case where a member of the public was killed by members of the SANDF because they have different approaches to crime, or in their mandate. So this is a very a caution that the deployment of the SANDF must be carefully governed, and that oversight is quite important. Then, as a sixth point, the committee will focus on the social drivers and community impact. So, members, just to elaborate, it is proposed as this focus on the social and economic drivers of gangsterism, including youth recruitment and trauma. It will focus on community policing relations and trust, and the impact on schools, family, businesses, and social cohesion. We will then focus also on legislative and the policy framework. The geographic focus will be in the following areas. However, additional areas may be included that warrants further examination. I know that one area could be the Klittersville area near Stellenbosch. Gang violence also quite prominent there and could be maybe included. We are looking at the powers and legal authority of Parliament. I'm not going to read through that. We then have a methodology on how the inquiry will be done. So it's just basically desktop research with detailed areas where the research must focus. The on-site visits to stations, the anti-gang violence unit, crime intelligence, flying squad, and K9 unit. We will then have briefings by the relevant stakeholder departments, and this is where it will come into the third term, the second term program, where we will have this while we are advertising part. Like this, and in the paragraph 9 is just an expansion on the public participation, how it will be run. And paragraph 10 is the reporting. It is proposed that we publish a public hearings report on the submissions and public hearings, and the date will naturally be amended, and the final report date, which will also be amended. We're just highlighting here the secretariat support and the site visits, and that will be done. We have here a draft on-site visit schedule, and it is grouped in communities and thematic focus areas, and that's just to prevent the overlap and repeat of focus areas in different communities. So that's the thematic focus. I'm not going to take members specifically through this, but in Delft, Mphileni, and Old Foray will be grouped. Mitchell's Plain, Kalicha, and Cape Town Central could be grouped. And then the committee work program, this dates will be amended, but it is broken down into phases that the committee will adhere to. So these are all the departments, and included in this will be more focus on the drug master plan, as noted by Honorable James. We have developed here a 6-month Gantt chart just to show the workflow of the committee to ensure that we finalize the inquiry at a scheduled date, and then naturally this chart will be amended based on the extension. We have here a draft, a text for the call for public submissions. Members can also read through that. And here as an annexure, just to show, is the statistical information that must stretch over a 3-year period from the SABs on these issues, the NPA, the Civilian Secretariat for Police, the IPID, the Department of Correctional Services. And just to note, honorable members, the Department of Correctional Services was specifically brought in due to the significant gang and drug activity in correctional facilities, just to address that aspect. Then also the City of Cape Town, the Western Cape government, and then we will also bring in the committee, naturally the Portfolio Committee on Social Development, and also include a presentation on the the drug master plan. And honorable members, that is it from me. The terms of reference will be amended. The time frame will be amended, but it will be that members have like initial thoughts that can be accommodated before it is sent to members for deliberation and consideration. Thank you, Honourable.
Thank you, Nicolette. May I get a show of hands? I've already noted the Honourable Cola Barnard, but anyone else who would also like to say something, and then I'm going to give 5 minutes each again. You can put up your hand while the Honourable Cola Barnard starts. Honourable Cola Barnard.
Thanks a lot. Thank you so much, Nicolette. As ever, a magnificent report. I'm having a lot of queries from my constituency in eThekwini. Wentworth and Sydenham have massive gang issues. And Sydenham, for example, had a gang called the Cape Townians arrived and thought they could take over the drug and prostitution business, shall we say. And there was gunfighting in the streets and bodies in the streets, and a veritable slaughter went on, and the Cape Townians were wiped out. And they then, the remnants thereof, I presume, went back to Cape Town. So there are issues elsewhere. I know the focus currently is on Cape Town, as it should be, because of the level of the gang warfare. But it doesn't mean that this gang warfare does not exist elsewhere in the country. And the other areas where it exists, in KZN, Wentworth and Sydenham, there are areas in Johannesburg, even in the Eastern Cape, where gangs are growing and growing. And people in those areas feel as though they're being totally ignored, because although we've held endless meetings with various members of SAPS and various representatives, it feels as though nothing has been done. It feels often that the local police are somehow involved, and that there is zero activity in this regard. So I'm very interested in when you said on that in that report, through you, Chair, to Nicolette, that other areas would be considered. I'm sadly presuming that it is only areas, these are only areas in this province and not elsewhere. Perhaps you could give me some feedback in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Barnard. Honourable James.
Thank you, Chair. Questions. How were the areas identified, the focus areas? I'd just like to know how they were identified. And then also, in terms of our stakeholders, right, I see that we have DSD there. Now, DSD, in terms of their social workers, cannot work in isolation without Department of Education and without Department of Health. Why I say Department of Education? Because most of these gangsters are kids from the age of, let's say, even 10 that has dropped out of school. We know that education, every child has the right to education, and it is mandatory. So without the involvement and a key role from the Department of Education to ensure that every child in those areas gets back into the classroom. That is the number one, that also, because you'll find that a lot of the children loitering at the pull-up also involved in gangs are kids below the age of 18. So we have to ensure that the Department of Education is also a key role player, as well as Department of Health. Department of Health, because there we can also identify when these gangs have shootouts and you have them going into the various hospitals, they can be identified by their tattoos. And Department of Health can also give us statistics in terms of the amount of shootings and patients that they get specifically from this area. Also, the role of DCS, also in terms of, Nicolette spoke about, why there's focus on DCS, because also that is where the dealing and the trafficking, and we find that the operations mainly happen in some of the prisons closest to these areas. When I conducted my oversight at the various police stations, station commanders were complaining and saying that when the parolees are come out into these areas, whenever there's a release of parolees in these areas, you see that there's heightened violence and gang violence in these already gang-ridden areas. So what are the programs for these parolees in these areas that sort of adds to the shootings in the areas? I hear the members saying that, yes, I would also love to have this extended to my community, to Westbury and all of that. But I've always been, and because of my years of experience in terms of working with this, if we can have a piloted and a focused approach in one specific area. We pilot, we ensure that all role players are there, and we establish a blueprint to roll out in the other areas. We are not saying that we should have a blanket approach when it comes to addressing gang violence and drug-related violence. But I'm saying when we have a focused approach throughout the duration of the inquiry, we can also, one of the outcomes of this inquiry can also be to establish a blueprint with basic do's and don'ts and things that needs to be done to be rolled out. There's also a very important role of the Central Drug Authority. Now, the Central Drug Authority is responsible for the implementation of the National Drug Master Plan, and they have been working in various communities. We can also include the Provincial Substance Abuse Forum of the Western Cape that can also give us information in terms of stats and their findings. I think it's important to have them on board as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable James. Honourable Schikkerling.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just would like to also find out about the areas that have been identified. I think, as Nicolette rightfully said, Clutisville is an area that we should include. As we can see, gang violence seems to be moving out of the normal gang areas like Mitchell's Plain and those areas, and Mannenberg, and moving out into the smaller areas. So perhaps if we can just include of the smaller towns around, it would make a difference. And yeah, that's all from me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Schikkerling. I then would like to move to the Honourable Muzi from the EFF. I believe it's also your maiden introduction to the committee. So welcome and go for it.
No, thank you very much, Chair. My name is Muzi Koza from the Economic Freedom Fighters. I've just joined a bit late due to network, Chair, but I've also followed through on the presentation by Nicolette. You'll bear with me, Chair, if some of the questions were clarified. I would just appreciate if maybe we can be taken through. So I also want to put on record the approaches from our main member, Honorable Ian Matthews, who wished to join, but unfortunately the ad hoc committee yesterday, it ran until very late. So can it be recorded that she has passed her apologies. Chair, I want to firstly perhaps want to understand as to what is the committee's interest in terms of understanding the terms of reference, noting the deployment of the SNDF, because and also its duration and its geographical scope of deployment, because it's quite vague, and also how were those areas identified, and also the terms of reference, the duration, because we're not even yet sure, we're not taken into confidence as to what's the duration. Is it 3 months? Is it 3 years? It's not yet clear as to what's the duration of the deployment of the SNDF. And also, for interest's sake, Chair, one might also wish to understand as to understanding that, yes, it was really necessary for the SNDF to be brought to intervene on these issues. But also, we also understand that it is because of the incapacity and also lack of resources from the South African police services. But in the interim, what are we doing, or perhaps what measures are we putting in place to capacitate the subs that will be left with the very same issues after the deployment of the SNDF? What are the measures or system in place that are we putting in those areas to capacitate the police services? Because the deployment, I understand that it's a temporal measure, but what is the future plan to resuscitate and bring back the confidence of our societies, the confidence of our people on the blue badge or the blue uniform? Because as things stand now, we can all agree that our people have lost confidence, and it seems as if there is no clear indication as to how best are we going to manage these issues. And we also know that SAFs has been overwhelmed and the under-resourced and the mismanagement. So if we can also perhaps speak on that as we try to understand the issues that we come across, Chair, we'll highly appreciate that.
Thank you, Honourable Koza. Then I'm going to give the opportunity to the Honourable Shongwe.
Thank you very much, Chair. Welcome to Honorable Muzi from EFF. Chair, as much as the question has been asked on how the selection of these areas was conducted, I think I would ask that how to include the unselected areas that also need such an intervention. But Chair, as much as it is an admission by the GNU that the police has failed. By sending subs, that's a signal that police have totally failed. Therefore, we should disregard them. Because in this regard, if you can check this, it continues the same sentiment and the same signaling of how police are so disregarded by this program. The fact that they are not included anywhere. And there are many not portfolio, just many departments that should have been included. For example, when whatever is going to be done by the SANDF, police will need to pick up after them. We know for sure, if you can remember the July unrest, we know for sure that SANDF are there for only one thing: shoot to kill. If they are there for that reason. If there's any other reason, there's no investigation done by SANDF. There's no investigation done by them. It's only SAPS, and the arresting is SAPS. Therefore, the exclusion of this committee is a mistake, Chair. And the exclusion of many areas is also another mistake. This tells me that there was a rush in this thing. It was not properly planned. So I think we need to engage, Chair, on how do we facilitate and propose inclusion of this committee. And I tend to differ, as much as this is taken as if it's for the SANDF to take supremacy on this program. I think it's the other way around. This committee should take lead on this program, because end of the day, it is us that are going to be conducting a lot of work compared to the SANDF. The investigation of those drug cartels and all those things will be done by SAPS. In some areas, Chair, where you find like in Davidson, you notice that this drugs and gangsters are now collaborating and emerging to be one with the Zamazamas. The Zamazamas bring money, they bring gold, and gold is sold for money. Money buys drugs and girls. So it's a collaborated effort by the criminals. We therefore can't also miss an opportunity where we need to be one as government entities, government department, in fighting this war. So I think, Chair, through you, I'll propose that we engage differently and we fight for inclusion in this matter, rather than the exclusion that we are, as if we are just given a chance to just come on board or a favor. Because, Chair, when SANDF is done with their job, those criminals are going to leave those holes on the Zamazamas. Those criminals are going to leave their gangs and go out to our communities, especially with the Zamazamas. They live under those mines. But when they come out, they go to the community. So if they have nothing to do, when those holes are closed, they are going to go into our townships and commit more further crimes, rapes, killings, and all that is going to happen. Now, when you're saying SAPS has failed, totally failed, why are you then taking SANDF into closing the holes and then not guarding the townships where these criminals will be flogging to? So I think we need a proper planning on this matter, Chair. I'll propose that again. Let's interact with this matter before we go on oversight. Let's have a sit down, maybe find a solution to give and propose to the president that no, we need to relook at this matter thoroughly, because it is going to cause a lot of work to the SAPS, and it's going to cause harm to the townships that are going to have to take those criminals from the Zamazamas into the township with those drugs and gangsters. Thank you, Chair.
I agree.
Thank you, Honorable Strongway. I'm then going to hand over back to Nicolette to answer any of the questions and any other comments necessary from the honorable members. Nicolette?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. To answer members on the identification of areas, that stems directly from the House resolution that was adopted. As you can see here, it is acknowledged that the Eastern Cape province also has very high levels of violence, and then mass shootings in Swane and Cape Town area. But in terms of paragraph 3 of the resolution, it does state that give a very strong focus on the inability to sufficiently detect, prevent, and investigate violent crime in Cape Town. And then also in paragraph 4 says that recognizing out of the top 10 police stations reporting contact crime in the country are in Cape Town, namely Mufuleni, Delft, Nyanga, and Kraaifontein, and then further recognizes that out of the top 10 police stations at which murder is reported in the country, 5 are in Cape Town, namely Delft, Mufuleni, Nyanga, Philippi East, and Kraaifontein. And really, this is how the areas the areas were identified. And finally, paragraph 8 states that the Portfolio Committee on Police is then specifically mandated to inquire into the cause of these violent gang-related crimes in Cape Town, and thus the areas noted above. Thank you, G. I think that covers the request for explanation in terms of the areas, how the areas were identified. And I have taken note of the comments made by members, and definitely we will have an engagement to have a more joint approach towards the SANDF deployment to the areas, and this engagement will be scheduled as soon as possible. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Nicolette, for all your assistance with this and all the effort in with regards to the terms of reference. Colleagues, just for clarity or just to emphasize, we will have a proper engagement regarding the terms of reference to ensure that everyone's input is considered. I would like us to then move to the program for the relevant terms, as Nicolette indicated earlier. That will also give you a better indication of what is being planned in terms of when we will engage on which specific issues. Nicolette?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Members, I'm just going to quickly run through the draft second term program. The first term program will be revised or reviewed to just try and incorporate the meetings of the Portfolio Committee as discussed today, specifically on the deployment of the SANDF. Just to show to highlight, the committee has now agreed to meet on both Wednesdays and Fridays. The objectives of the second term will be to exercise financial oversight over the departments and entity in our portfolio, to advance parliamentary inquiries into gang violence and statutory rape, to assess institutional governance and accountability within policing and oversight bodies, and to conduct operational oversight, including oversight visits and readiness briefings. And then also to adopt and finalize reports and resolutions in line with the National Assembly mandates. It is proposed that we start off the second term with a briefing on the first audit action plan that was scheduled for the first term. We regard it as important to understand how the department is going to address the audit findings before we move into budget and annual report hearings, just to understand and deliberate on ways that the audit findings is not repeated in the new financial year, and again highlighted in the annual reports of the department. It is proposed then that we start with the briefing on the post-audit action plan. Then we move on to the budget and APP hearings of the IPID and CERA. The next week we will have the budget and APP of SAPS and the Civilian Secretariat. It is then proposed that we have the deliberations on the gang-related violence draft terms of reference, and also a preliminary briefing by SAPS on their interventions to combat gang-related violence. We will move on to the adoption of the budget report and the adoption of the gang violence terms of reference. We are, as indicated previously, we are considering a joint oversight visit by the PCM Police and the Joint Standing on Defence and also the Portfolio Committee on Defence towards the middle of May. This is crucial because the deployment ends on the last day of May, as we understand it currently. The 20th of May, we will have the private security industry or CERA 2024-2025 annual report, focusing on material irregularities, the appointment of the CERA council, and the suspension of key personnel, and how that affects the stability of the entity. We will then move on to the 2024-25 annual report of the DNA board and the Office of the DPCI Judge. Members will remember that the annual reports of these entities and boards, they were not done primarily because of the significant instability within the CERA and the material irregularity that was not concluded. And the DNA board was at the time not yet established, which would have made it very difficult to, or they were established apologist members, but they were just established and they were still finding their feet and coming to terms with what has been done and historic concerns. So we will have the adoption of the annual reports, and it's also suggested that we deliberate on the National Assembly resolution to investigate crime in the Mooiplaas area and develop a way forward. This is not I want to say, not a significant mandate or resolution. It states that the Minister of Police is aware of the crime affecting the area and asks the Portfolio Committee on Police to conduct an oversight visit to the area. In June, we will have a discussion on, or propose that we have a discussion on the statutory rape inquiry that was conducted last year. Unfortunately, this was one of the key areas where the Portfolio Committee on Police could not focus on because of the ad hoc committee. The statutory rape inquiry report has been tabled in the National Assembly, but it has two phases. The first phase was the parliamentary side and briefings and engagements with stakeholders. And then the second phase, where the Portfolio Committee will come in, is doing oversight in different areas as much as we can on statutory rape requirements. We will also have a meeting on the consideration of petitions before the committee. We have a couple of petitions that must be addressed. It is then proposed that we have the really focus on the gang violence inquiry by the departmental briefings, and that will bring us to the end of June of this year. The timeframes has been developed like this, but it can be naturally amended because of the public participation hearings. We expect that the committee will receive quite a number of submissions, which must be considered and compiled and analyzed by the content team before we can conduct public hearings. So that's just to allow the support team to have sufficient time to go through the submissions. But members, as noted, this date might end, might be amended as members have been discussing to bring forward the gang violence inquiry and discussions on the terms of reference. Thank you, honorable members.
Thank you very much, Nicolette. Nicolette and Babalwa for assisting so much with the programming for the committee. Colleagues, we've got about 35 minutes. In fact, we have exactly 35 minutes left. I'd like to give an opportunity to each of the members if there are specific inputs they would like to add to the program. I think the program, the way that it's been put together, assists us in catching up with quite a bit of work. And the fact that we've got an additional day per week will also obviously help too. Can I see a show of hands if there are specific inputs? If not, that's also fine. The Honorable Shongwe is the only one who nearly used all of his time today. But even Honorable Shongwe stayed within the time limit. So can I see a show of hands if there are any comments?
Chair, since I've used all my time, no comment, Chair, but I would also support you in extending maybe a day so that we can deal with the backlog of our work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Shongwe. Noted. Anyone else? If there are specific things, colleagues, that you think of that you would like to have considered, please feel free to just send an email or WhatsApp message to Nicolette and Babalwa, from where we can then see how we can ensure that the relevant matters are placed on the program. I see there aren't any other hands in terms of comments on the program. I assume that the hands of the Honorable Muela and the Honorable Khoza are legacy hands, and therefore we have actually come to the end of our meeting. Okay, hands down now. Thank you very much for everyone's time this morning. We will see you. Honorable Muela, let me just confirm, is that a legacy hand or is it a new hand? Okay. Colleagues, with that, I'm going to close the meeting. Nicolette, thank you for everything and for your presentation this morning. And welcome again to our new colleague. And we look forward to taking on all of the work that we have for the rest of the year. We will keep you posted and we'll see what we can do to arrange that briefing from the South African Police Service, and I guess including parts of the SANDF regarding the deployment to the relevant places. The meeting is closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Bye-bye.